Making the headlines tonight, Prime Minister Hun Sen has asked the United States whether this case of shoe throwing could be considered an act of freedom of expression or violence. Prime Minister Hun Sen assured the public that there will be no shortage of COVID-19 vaccines because even if Cambodia may be poor, the government will not allow people to die. Ukraine's military said that it was working to evacuate all remaining troops from their last stronghold in the besieged port of Mariupol. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. My name is Dekanin. Prime Minister Hun Sen has asked the United States administration through the U.S. ambassador to Cambodia to clarify the case of violence acted upon by the opposition, when an individual threw a shoe towards the Prime Minister during his visit to Washington, D.C. for the ASEAN-US Special Summit last week. He has asked the United States whether this case could be considered an act of freedom of expression or violence, and said that if the United States considers this action freedom of expression, then it will be able to spread to other countries, including Cambodia as well. EAC News reporter Dashana Gochin has the details.
តើទង្វើគប់បែបនេះដោយមានការប៉ុនប៉ងយ៉ាងច្បាស់កលែតតាមរយៈបទសម្ភាសន៍ដែលមានតាមទៅដល់សេអ៊ូលមានរបៀបរៀបចំធ្វើយ៉ាងម៉េចដើម្បីឲ្យបានចូលជាការប៉ុនប៉ងហើយក៏បានធ្វើសកម្មភាពដែរតើសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកចាត់ទុកថានេះជាសិទ្ធិបញ្ចេញមតិឬក៏ជាហិង្សាខ្ញុំប្រាំផ្ញើទៅភាគីអាមេរិកខ្ញុំមិនបដៅអាមេរិកទេអាមេរិកត្រូវគិតឲ្យច្បាស់លើចំណុចនេះសង្ឃឹមថាឯកឧត្តមអគ្គរដ្ឋទូតនៅទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញបញ្ជូនសារនេះទាំងស្រុងទៅកាន់រដ្ឋបាលអាមេរិកបើសិនជាអាមេរិកចាត់ទុកថារឿងនេះវាជាសិទ្ធិបញ្ចេញមតិប្រហែលជារឿងនេះនឹងកើតនៅគ្រប់ប្រទេសទាំងអស់រាប់ទាំងកម្ពុជា
While meeting with supporters in front of his hotel in Washington, D.C., Ok Tuot, a 75-year-old Cambodian-American man, threw a shoe at the Prime Minister's supporters, which was considered immoral and arrogant. Speaking at a meeting with the Samdek Tekcho Voluntary Youth Association at the OCIC Center in Phnom Penh on Tuesday, 17th May 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen asked the United States administration through the U.S. ambassador to Cambodia to clarify whether the shoe-throwing incident is freedom of expression or violence. He said he feared that if the United States considers this case an act of freedom of expression, then his supporters might do the same thing against the opposition group.
នៅអាមេរិកធ្វើបាននៅស្រុកខ្មែរក៏ធ្វើបានដូចគ្នានេះជាការឡងមួយដ៏ខ្ពស់ហើយហានិភ័យខ្ពស់ណាស់តែខ្ញុំសំណូមពរឲ្យបងប្អូនយើងអត់ធ្មត់តែក្រៃលោយើងគ្រប់គ្រងគេអត់បានបើសិនជាអាមេរិកចាត់ទុកថារឿងនេះវាជាសិទ្ធិបញ្ចេញមតិប្រហែលជារឿងនេះនឹងកើតនៅគ្រប់ប្រទេសទាំងអស់រាប់ទាំងកម្ពុជា
The Prime Minister further stated that he did not want the United States to take any action against the person who threw the shoe, but only asked the United States to clarify this matter. EAC News has reached out to the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia for comment, however, are still awaiting a response. Cambodian political observers have expressed their opposition to Ok Tuot's actions. Political analyst Seng Seri wrote on his Facebook page that he did not support what Ok Tuot did and described the act as immoral and violent. He wrote, "Immoral and violent acts are not the heroism of Democrats. For who are Democrats that hate violence but throw a shoe at our hero? Please reconsider again." Commenting on the incident, Deputy Prime Minister Men Sam-on described Ok Tuot's actions as an insult to the Prime Minister of Cambodia, an act conducted by inferior people. She wrote on her official Facebook page, "This degrading act is unacceptable to the Cambodian people and cannot be pardoned of all extremists." The young lawmaker and son of the Prime Minister Hun Mani also spoke about the incident and stated that he could not accept such an insult made to his father from the opposition in the United States, saying, This act, we are all members of the party and the people. The Cambodian people who support the Cambodian People's Party cannot mitigate or reduce the guilt of all extremists. We must remember and not forget their extremism, Hun Mani further wrote on his official Facebook page on the afternoon of 12th May 2022. He added, "You must also remember that whoever does it will receive it back." T. Savanta, a former youth activist for the CNRP who shifted her allegiance to the CPP, wrote on her Facebook page, also condemning the shoe-throwing incident. She quoted an interview given by former CNRP leader Sam Rainsy for Radio France on 16th May, where he said he considers throwing shoes a right of expression. In response to this, she said Sam Rainsy must remember his words, as if he is ever lucky enough to return to Cambodia, millions of shoes will fly to welcome him. She further added, "Politicians' words are very influential. I beg you not to sow the theory of violence." Prime Minister Hun Sen thanked the Cambodian people living in the United States and Canada for welcoming and meeting with him in Washington, D.C., as well as for not retaliating against any attacks made against him. He said he's proud of his supporters in the United States and Canada for maintaining their dignity and respecting U.S. law, and further urged his supporters to remain patient and dignified. Prime Minister Hun Sen also sent a message to analysts saying to be careful in their analyses so as to avoid distortion. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has warned a Ministry of Health authorized vaccine company that its COVID-19 vaccine production license may be revoked after receiving reports from the company's Chinese counterpart that the Cambodian side has been slow to set up factory production. He also assured the public that there will be no shortage of COVID-19 vaccines because even if Cambodia may be poor, the government will not allow people to die. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
While speaking at a meeting with some Dek Cho Volunteer Youth Doctor Association on Tuesday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen questioned the Ministry of Health about the delay of establishment of the COVID-19 vaccine factory in Cambodia. He ordered to receive weekly update reports and said that if the company cannot step up the factory in a timely manner, then their COVID-19 vaccine license will be revoked and the state will take over Endeavour instead.
ខុសគ្នារឿងអីមានបញ្ហាអីមិនក៏មិនរាយការណ៍ឲ្យក្រសួងសុខាភិបាលឲ្យក្រសួងសុខាភិបាលខ្លួនឯងកុំត្រឹកហើយយើងចំចឹងចុះណាវិស័យឯកជនដែលចង់ធ្វើឥឡូវគាត់ថាមិនកើតទេដកហូតយកមកក្រសួងរបស់យើងធ្វើតែម្ដងទៅវាមិន
He further stated that Cambodia needs these COVID-19 vaccines on hand because he would not allow people to die due to lack of vaccines. The Prime Minister, however, also assured that Cambodia still has nearly 10 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines left, and some friendly countries have promised to send more later, so there is no shortage of vaccines for the people, and vaccinations in Cambodia remain free of charge. He said that if the royal government started charging people for vaccine, it would cost $10 to $15, but doing so could lead to corruption, with some made dare to charge much higher prices. He said, "This is not time to take people's money, it's time to help people." The Prime Minister underlined that they would not charge for vaccine and force the poor to have borrowed money just to get vaccinated, leading to more destitution. He stated that in addition to providing free vaccination, the state will also help support those who continue to be in crisis every month. He added that more than 28 million COVID-19 vaccines provided to public, more than half was purchased by Cambodia.
កម្ពុជាបានចំណាយលុយខ្លួនឯងទិញ28លានកន្លះអញ្ចឹងមកទៅកម្ពុជាមានសមត្ថភាពដើម្បីចាក់ជូនប្រជាពលរដ្ឋរបស់ខ្លួនឥឡូវនេះ52លានដែលបានមកដល់បើយើងគិត28លាន5សែនរបស់កម្ពុជាគឺមានចំណែកធំជាងជំនួយពីបណ្ដាប្រទេសនានាទាំងអស់
During his speech, the Prime Minister also said that he decided to reject the proposal of the Minister of Tourism to drop the quarantine mandate for those who have not been vaccinated, as dropping quarantine measures for the unvaccinated can discourage citizens from getting the COVID-19 vaccines. So far, Cambodia has received and purchased more than 52 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that he spoke with the Minister of Justice, Pedalo, about changing his date of birth from the 4th of April 1951 to his actual date of birth, 5th of August 1952. Addressing a meeting with the Samdak Dekjo Voluntary Youth Doctor Association on Tuesday morning at the Choi Chang Va International Exhibition Hall in Phnom Penh, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that after his return from Switzerland, he will submit to the court a decision on changing his official date of birth before presenting the changed dates on his official identification documents to the king and announcing the change to the public, as well as to ambassadors of friendly countries. Currently, the Prime Minister's official date of birth is listed as 4th of April, which is the day the Prime Minister fled to the jungle during the Khmer Rouge. The Cambodian indoor volleyball team has reserved a place in the semi-finals with one game left to play against Thailand on May 18th. The semi-finals will be played on May 20th, 2022. Men's football draw with Malaysia 2-2. Cambodian swimmers are in the pool this evening hoping for a medal. Also tonight, our athletes will be competing in Greco wrestling, fencing, and taekwondo. The host country is on top of the medal tally with a total of 197 medals. Vietnam is leading the medal tally with 88 gold, followed by Thailand 36, Philippines 30, Singapore 24, Indonesia 23, and Malaysia 19. Cambodia is also on a medal tally with 1 gold, 4 silver, and 10 bronze medals. Cambodia are still in with a chance to win more medals with 5 days to go. The SEA Games will be held in Cambodia next year. Cambodia has reported no new COVID-19 cases for the 10th day straight. There have been no new recoveries and no new deaths. The total number of Omicron cases in the kingdom stands at 15,821, with 1,362 imported and 14,459 local community cases. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has stalled at 136,262, and the death toll stands at 3,056. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic reached Cambodia is 133,197, and the tally for imported cases remains at 21,219.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Ukraine's military said on Tuesday it was working to evacuate all remaining troops from their last stronghold in the besieged port of Mariupol, ceding control of the city to Russia after months of bombardment.
The evacuation likely marked the end of the longest and bloodiest battle of the Ukraine war and a significant defeat for Ukraine. Mariupol is now in ruins after a Russian siege that Ukraine says killed tens of thousands of people in the city. With the rest of Mariupol firmly in Russian hands, hundreds of Ukrainian troops and civilians had holed up beneath the city's Azovstal steelworks. Civilians inside were evacuated in recent weeks, and more than 260 troops, some of them wounded, left the plant for Russian-controlled areas late on Monday. The Mariupol garrison has fulfilled its combat mission, the General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces said in a statement announcing evacuations. The Supreme Military Command ordered the commanders of the units stationed at Azovstal to save the lives of the personnel. Defenders of Mariupol are the heroes of our time, it added. Ukraine's deputy defense minister said 53 injured troops from the Azovstal steelworks were taken to a hospital in the Russian-controlled town of Novoazovsk, some 32 kilometers to the east. Another 211 people were taken to the town of Olenivka in an area controlled by Russian-backed separatists, Deputy Defense Minister Anne Malier said. All of the evacuees will be subject to a potential prisoner exchange with Russia, she added. It was not clear how many troops remained in Azovstal. Ukraine's military said efforts were underway to evacuate those still inside. Reuters saw 5 buses carrying troops from Azovstal arrive in Novoazovsk late on Monday. Some of the evacuated troops were wounded and carried out of the buses on stretchers. Some 600 troops were believed to have been inside the steel plant. We hope that we will be able to save the lives of our guys, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said in an early morning address. There are several wounded ones among them. They're receiving care. Ukraine needs Ukrainian heroes alive. Arriving in Novoazovsk in a bus marked with Z, a symbol for Russia's invasion, men could be seen stacked on stretchers on 3 levels. They stared out the windows without reacting. One man was wheeled out, his head tightly wrapped in thick bandages. Since Russia launched its invasion in February, Mariupol's devastation has become a symbol both of Ukraine's resistance and of Russia's willingness to devastate Ukrainian cities that hold out. The first evacuations late on Monday came hours after Russia said it had agreed to evacuate wounded Ukrainian soldiers to a medical facility in Novoazovsk.
The European Union has not yet found agreement on a 6th package of sanctions against Russia. Its top diplomat Joseph Borrell said after a meeting of the bloc's foreign ministers in Brussels on Monday, 16th of May.
Ambassadors now charged to negotiate an agreement.
We will continue imposing sanctions on Russia to make the cost of the invasion unbearable to the Kremlin. We continue discussing, and unhappily today it has not been possible to reach an agreement to finalize the 6th sanction package. The issue will go back to the COREPER and ambassadors will continue discussing. We are with the same difficulties about unanimity on the oil ban.
EU foreign ministers failed on their effort to pressure Hungary to lift its veto on a proposed oil embargo on Russia. The EU needs 27 states to agree to embargo for it to go ahead. The ban on crude imports proposed on the European Commission in early May made it to be the harshest sanctions yet to response of Moscow's February 24th invasion of Ukraine and inches carve-outs for EU states most dependent on Russian oil.
And we went through an analysis of every way to provide financial support in front of the worsening humanitarian situation, in front of the financial needs during the war, for the post-reconstruction of the country, and mainly to defend themselves. And we agreed to provide an additional 500 million from European Peace Facility for weapons deliveries. What started with 500 million, now it reaches 2,000 millions.
Hungary has not received any new serious proposals from the European Commission regarding oil sanctions on Russia since the visit of the Commission President to Budapest earlier this month. Hungary's Foreign Minister said on Monday on his Facebook page. The European Commission has caused a problem with the proposal, so it's a rightful expectation from Hungary that the EU should offer a solution to finance investments and compensate for the resulting price rises, which necessitates a total of modification of Hungary's energy structure in a magnitude of 15 to 18 billion euros, Peter Seleccio said. He said another solution would be to make oil shipments via pipeline exempt from the planned embargo.
Sri Lankan security forces have been ordered to shoot lawbreakers on sight in a bid to quell anti-government protests on the island. Demonstrators are calling for the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa over the island's worst economic crisis in history. On Monday, his brother Mahinda Rajapaksa stepped down as prime minister amid violent street clashes, but the resignation failed to bring calm and violence continued. Yesterday, the government ordered troops to open fire on anyone looting public property or causing harm to life. It also deployed tens of thousands of army, navy, and air force personnel to patrol the streets of the capital, Colombo. Despite their presence, the city's top police officer was assaulted yesterday afternoon by a mob accusing him of not doing enough to protect peaceful protesters. At Colombo's gale faced green on the seafront, crowds also continue to gather. Police say 8 people have died, and the capital's main hospital says more than 250 people have been wounded since Monday. Ashana Handugoda, a senior journalist and prominent socio-political analyst in Sri Lanka, said Mahinda inadvertently informed security forces to attack and assault peaceful protesters, and they were subjected to the most brutal attacks. Former Prime Minister and current Member of Parliament Mahinda Rajapaksa are directly responsible for these 8 dead bodies, namely the criminal killings, Marasinghe added. The journalist urged the Bar Association to step in and suggested taking the case to court to sue Mahinda Rajapaksa for his barbaric attacks on civilians and arresting him to prevent him from leaving the country. The son of the Prime Minister who planned this has fled the country today, Tuesday, Marasinghe said. Professor Ashu Marasinghe, Member of Parliament, has urged defenseless people in the country to take to the streets, saying that expelling the Rajapaksa family from the country is the only way to end the crisis. Meanwhile, Harinda Fosenka, founder and CEO of the Good Pole movement in Sri Lanka, accused Rajapaksa supporters of destroying the protest venue, saying that courageous people who are trying to build a better Sri Lanka are being attacked. Let's have a look at today's finance. The CSX index is currently at 505.03 points, down 1.24 points or 0.24%. The daily exchange rate is 4,061 real to the US dollars. And now a look at what else is happening in finance around the world.
Asian shares advanced on Tuesday, led up to jump of technology majors as hopes grow as easing China's unprecedented regulatory crackdown on once free-running tech sector. European markets were set in a higher open with the pan-region and Euro Stoxx 50 futures up 0.85%, German DAX futures raising 0.87%, and FTSE futures gaining 0.45%. US Stoxx futures and S&P 500 E-minis were up 0.42%. MSCI's broadcast index of Asian Pacific shares outside Japan gained 1.5% on Tuesday, but the index is still down 6.4% so far this month. US stocks ended with previous sessions with the mild losses. In Tokyo, the Nikkei rose 0.33% in the afternoon trade, while Australia, the SP/ASX 200 index gained 0.25%. Mainland China SCI 300 index gained 0.95%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng index was 2.35% higher. As tech firms listed in the city jumped more than 4% on hopes of Beijing's crackdown on the sector being relaxed. In afternoon Asian trade, the yield of benchmark 10-year Treasury notes rose to 2.9203% compared to US close of 2.879% on Monday. The 2-year yield rose, which traders' expectations of higher Fed fund rates touched 2.6112% compared to US close of 2.568%. The US dollar index, which tracks the greenback against the basket of currencies, was flat in Asia trade to be at 104.15. The dollar rose 0.17% against the yen to 129.38, getting closer to its high of 131.34%. The European single currency was up 0.1% on the day, $1.044 having at least 0.96 in the month. US crude dipped 0.39% to $113.76 a barrel. Brent crude fell 113.88 cents per barrel. Gold was slightly higher. Spot gold was traded $1,824.44 per ounce. The SP 500 ended lower on Monday, with Tulsa and other growth stocks losing ground after a downbeat Chinese economic data added worries about the global showdown of rising interest rates. The SP 500 Energy Index railed at 2014 intra-high. It closed at 2.6%, making it the strongest performer among the 11 sector indexes. Investors question whether a strong day on Wall Street last Friday might signal the end of the recent sell-off and has left the SP 500 down 16% from the record highest close in January. Many of Wall Street's mega-cap growth stocks are lower, with Amazon and Google owner Alphabet losing more than 1% and weighing on the SP 500 Nasdaq. Twitter fell more than 8% after Bloomberg reported Elon Musk said the deal by social media company at a lower price it is previously agreed to $44 billion was not out of the question. Tesla, which Musk leads, fell almost 6%. The SP 500 healthcare sector index rose 0.7%, lifted up by 2.7% jump, and Eli Lilly & Co. after the drug maker won US approval tripletase. Oil prices inched lower as EU Russians on oil-based stands. Oil prices inched lower on Tuesday as Hungary registered a European Union push for the ban of Russian oil imports, a move that would tighten global supply, which investors taking profits on a recent rally. Brent crude futures fell 11 cents or 0.1 to 114.13 cents a barrel on 6 o'clock this morning. As US West Texas Intermediate crude futures slid 22 cents or 0.2% at 113.98 cents a barrel, both benchmarks gained more than 2% on Monday following a 4% jump on Friday. McDonald's Corp said on Monday, 16th of May, it would sell all its 847 restaurants in Russia after more than 30 years, making it one of the biggest global brands to exit since the Russian-Ukraine conflict began. The company expects to record a non-cash charge of $1.2 billion to $1.4 billion following the sale. Last year, it generated 9% or $2 billion in revenue from the Russia and Ukraine. Ever since McDonald's shut its stores in Russia, it has been losing roughly $55 million a month to pay staff, landlords and suppliers for the restaurants in Ukraine and Russia, company executive has said. That's all the latest news and finance. Tune in tomorrow for more.
Now let's have a look at the weather and what you can expect for tomorrow. And finally, around 200 people competed in what organizers called the world's first Pedalo Championship in a park of the Belgian capital Brussels on Sunday, 15th of May.
Paddle boats, also known as pedalos, are a popular attraction among locals and tourists who rent them out for leisure sails at the picturesque Bois de la Cambre pond. Hundreds of fans and onlookers showed up to cheer for 20 teams, who were given 4 hours to complete as many laps as possible. Jean-Christophe Gies, the organizer of Belgian Pedalo World Championships, said that it's an offbeat event that allows all kinds of people to join and have fun. François Dewel, one of the participants, said they pedaled, but they didn't move forward, which was exactly as planned. There is a good vibe going on. On the other hand, also taking part in the race was 32-year-old Ariane Rogeman, who said that her strategy was to be fast, not to be afraid of getting wet, and above all, to keep well hydrated. Although for most participants, taking part in the competition seemed more important than winning it, a team named Baywatch took the race seriously and finished first after having completed no less than 42 laps, paddling a distance of 17,640 meters. A second round of the Belgian Pedalo World Championship will take place on May 22nd.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup here on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, check our website eacnews.asia or search EAC News on Smart TV, Telegram, or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. See you then!